Farmer Courtney here. So real quick, just checking back in, getting back in the habit of being on here with me. Typically, like, no news is not good news. Living real isolated out on the farm, I've always been super grateful for being able to connect with people online. And so if you follow my page and you see my content and then all of a sudden you see me drop off, it's usually a pretty good indication that something's up. And so that's exactly what happened. I just went through this like illness trial, real kind of hellish experience on more emotional and like interpersonal levels than so much like the health side of things. It was just a severe level of exhaustion that went along with the acute illness. It wasn't really that, but it allowed me to get to know my homeopathy remedies better. But I've just been out. You've seen, I haven't put anything up. So yesterday was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's birth anniversary. And I was thinking, oh, I should put something up. And then I got this impulse of like, no, you need to talk. You need to talk. That's what you need to do as a birthday offering, acknowledgement, celebration. You need to start talking again. And I had mentioned on here, and I did a whole longer YouTube video about a dream I pretty recently had with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in it, and me being sent for, and then seeing him, and that he wasn't radiant and overflowing with joy, and just how he has been in the past when I've seen him in dreams. He was weeping, and he wasn't just weeping, he was like crying a river. Like there was so much, there was like a mini sea in the room when we were there. It took me a minute in the dream to kind of put it together of what was going on. And when I asked him, what is it that I can do? Why are you so upset? He said, it isn't about what you can do, that it's about what you're not doing. And so when I went through this illness and I just kind of dropped off of here, right before that, I had this moment where, I was really feeling super blessed from all of the coaching and mentorship and guidance that I've always received in Brother Ben X's digital real estate program, specifically, the really quality coaching that comes in on the spiritual and mental health wellness, as well as the business side, because they are linked. And a lot of times when you're creating content and you're really going from your purpose and from your heart, like it does really push, so things come up and you're in this, transitional period. So then you have the, angelic midwifery services of Dr. Sister Naomi Muhammad, Change Views 19, just really in there. So there was a moment right before I dropped off here that I was feeling super in my flow, right? I was making videos, I was just speaking. And she often says, if we remember whose we are, then we'll know, how to go from there. And I was just feeling that, that blessing that, from her teaching and training and edification really flowing and it all coming together. And then I got just completely knocked off. And so yesterday, as I'm scrolling through all the blessings on my, Facebook feed and reading everything on Instagram, I kept thinking like, oh, I need to put up a post about this honoring of the minister's birthday and just sharing my gratitude. And again, I got this really strong, like, you're not gonna do that. And the reason you're not gonna do that is because you haven't been speaking, you haven't been talking. So I got this kind of hyper focus on the numbers that everybody was sharing. So 67 years of service, and that really to push me for 67 straight days to make a commitment to sharing the perspective and stories and resources and different things, bearing witness that I've done in kind of, chaotic might be a little too judgmental, but inconsistently consistent. But I'm pretty inconsistent. People will say, oh, I didn't know you were like, yeah, I'm here and everything's still the same as far as contacting me, but I'm not as consistent as I could be. So I got the download. Be consistent for 67 days of creating content. Start tomorrow. And so this is the first of that 67 days of gratitude. And and physical, presence, celebration, birthday blessings for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so the other number that was on there, his, physical age, 89 years old. And so this, I'll do a podcast on it. It's going to be called The Truman Show. I've mentioned this before. So I'm not into numerology. I'm not smart about astrology. I don't really know any of that stuff. Like I do not. I've never given it any time. I know it's out there. I know it exists. And so on a super, elementary, preschool level, I just noticed those numbers and then kind of got a download about the prompting of what to make this video. I know I'm 5 minutes in, but this is really the content. It'll be on the podcast soon. So in 1989 was when I really got ejected from the path of my, family and like what everybody thought. Having a daughter, having a niece, having a cousin would be like I got really pushed out of that whole scene. It caused me to really question what was going on. So it was just, some sort of catty middle school nonsense, but I've always just been a bit of a different thinker, right? Like I analyze things differently. That's my gift, is that I'm a risk assessment. That's my thing, divine risk assessment. And so I was observing how all the adults around me were handling to what me was like the equivalent of, just a complete, bombing of my life, right? Like everything was turned upside down and suddenly had absolutely nothing socially that I relied on. So friend group gone overnight and all this stuff just happened. And then it was so interesting to me how, and at the time, I was 13. And so that's interesting. When 67 years of service, that's why I was like, you're going to tell this hard story for you to really tell, and you're going to do that. And then you're going to keep talking because that's what I told you to do. And so, yeah, until I hear otherwise, I'm just going to keep sharing on this. So I was 13 years old in 1989, and that's when I started really feeling like, what's going on? Like, why are people like this, right? Why are we like this? And I grew up in a very strategically designed Caucasian environment. So when I say we, it wasn't my lexicon to say Caucasians or white people, but that's who I was talking about. That's who I was analyzing. That's how I was watching, handling, somebody in a very dependent type situation of like what was going on. And, in the Truman Show, it would be the equivalent of like when he starts realizing that a light falls on the set, or that certain people are on a loop, like going around the neighborhood on bikes. And like he starts to realize the glitches and that everything isn't what it seems. So that's, something that I started to talk about my family and telling the story of that my father grew up in Rosedale, Queens. And so I didn't know anything about Rosedale until a few years ago from Instagram, when I started learning about the murderous, homicidal behavior of the people in the neighborhood who didn't want any black families moving in there. And then in 1975, which is around the time that I would have been conceived, I was born in 1976. And I was always sort of like, why am I like this? I'm so different from my family in a way. And then I didn't realize, because nobody ever talked about it, about the very specific identified northern variety of racism that my family dealt with, which was, it's connected to being Irish Catholics, I'm sure, of just like denial and carrying on and not talking about it, not talking about anything, right? That was the way. We didn't talk about anything in our families that actually had to do with us. So then as the circle of accountability got even wider from our own personal lives, denial and not discussing anything was kind of how they did things. But so I also this is super connection moment, is I live in a town called Spencer. And so on this Bill Moyers program, Like It Is, where he was talking about Rosedale, he was interviewing the Spencer family. And so Mrs. Spencer would have been right in the proximity, like blocks from my grandfather's house. My parents were living quite close to there still. They weren't in Rosedale, but they were like around that area. And I really, the more I think about how the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and then expounded on by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, is just how Allah answers prayers through the wombs of women. And it's through human life and through human beings that, things come through. And so, it gave me pause when I said her name is Spencer. I've always kind of wondered, why do I live out in this? I kind of have felt some sort of way more than one time, and especially during this most hellish, acute illness that I went through of I am quite isolated. I'm very isolated out where I live. And it's been a trial in itself to have been, I wasn't really deeply connected with the people that, as far as I don't think I was well liked, right? It's not, people don't say, they don't think of me as that friend that you just, can't wait to, to see, because they're such a warm, fuzzy person and so easy to connect with, and you just feel super comfortable around them. I've never been that person. I was that 4-year-old standing on my seat on the Peter Pan performance, yelling that she was on wires, right? I've always been the person that brings up things that people don't want to discuss and feels fulfilled and good and on purpose about having those conversations as I watch people all around me squirm. And part of it is, yes, I was lacking in refinement and I had to improve, right? Because I just really did not grow up in an environment that truly civilized people. And so I had to, there was a personal development side to it, but then there's also just, I'm that person. I'm that person who in 1992 was saying, why are these chemicals in the food? What's going on? We were those people in 1999 who were like, okay, let's work in the, the really difficult industry of small scale farming. That's just, it's important. It had to be, it had to be done. I worked in a mom and pop health food store before then. I worked in a little, Ital Foods restaurant before that, and then we moved out to the farm. So all that to say is just that, I'm grateful for being on here, having any kind of connection, and that this is the work that I'm on. So if you don't see me on here and you see that maybe, I've posted 2 days or I've posted 10 days or, and I'll number them, I'll get back on here. I have some other things, a bunch of different content and stuff that I wanted to share that I was working on sharing before I fell off. So I was only sick, out of it, bad, for 4 days. And then it was just such a intense experience that, mentally and spiritually, I just had to recover from all that longer. I didn't even do the math on how long it is, but it's been a while. And so, if you don't see me on here, you have my permission to say to me that, you're not keeping your word. Where are you? But moreover, just an invitation, please check on me that I'm, that I'm okay. Because this is really how I connect with people until life shifts and I'm more connected with people in the physical. This really is, my way. I have one really close sister that'll call me and be like, Court, what's up? I haven't heard from you, because she knows that no news is actually not good news, because talking and speaking to people about different connections and patterns and things that I've been seeing and recognizing. That is my, that's my jam. That's I love that. And so if I'm not doing that, something's up. So anyway, look forward to doing more of these. So this is number 1 of 67 Days of Appreciation for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and his 67 years of service. All right, peace.